Hi, this is Mark. Congratulations, you have found this amazingly awesome show. Chances are you're listening to it right now on whether it's iTunes or Stitcher Radio or some other mobile app that allows you to stream this amazingly awesome show to your ear holes. And I can't stress how awesomely amazing this show really is. But did you know that you can also catch the latest episode of this show on the Tangibound Network? That's right. Go check out tangiboundnetwork.com. You can look them up and you can listen to it right there. It's even mobile friendly. What more could you ask for? Which means you can pull it up on your iPhone or your Android, even your Windows phone. Yeah, who has one of those? But still, point remains, you can do it. You can do it. Check it out, tangiboundnetwork.com. Listen to this show, the latest episode, every time. Check it out.
Hello, everybody. This is the MLBeers podcast with your hosts, Andrew Sherman and Phillip Corwin. Phillip, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. Same old work, baseball work.
I have to agree with you there. A lot of baseball going on, especially with the College World Series going on, and it was a pretty wild weekend for the College World Series. Did you watch any?
I didn't get to watch any because I worked all weekend, but saw the updates for the Mo State Bears going to the Super Regional, so the bet is still on.
The bet is still alive, folks. So if you don't remember from last week, Phil did a pill, but anyway, Phil betted me if the Missouri State Bears, my school, goes to the College World Series, the actual final 8 teams, I have to play the fight song on my baritone. So I'm trying to figure out which day to go down to Richmond and get all my stuff, so I can, be ready if the task is needed. So,
were you able to get a copy of the sheet music?
Not yet. I'm gonna try to see if I can get somebody from the school to give it to me through Facebook or whatever, or
I was say, do you know anybody in the band?
There was actually a girl in the band. She was a clarinet player. She just graduated. Another J student gal. So, but besides that, I think I'm ready for it. I've been, kind of, shadow practicing in a way.
I was say, you getting your lips ready? When's the last time you put those lips on the baritone?
That is a very good question. I'm gonna say a safe bet, probably 2-3 years ago. Yeah, I'll just go with that. Probably 2-3 years ago.
Do you still remember Richmond's fight song?
I remember Richmond's fight song only in the sousaphone, so it was just
bump, okay.
Bump, 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 bump. So it's all the engine part. So I can't remember all the other technical parts because I don't hear it very often.
No, go Big Red.
Go Big Red and go Maroon for Missouri State. But anyway, like I said. The College World Series is going on. We finally got our 16 teams for the Super Regionals. So I'll just go down in order who got in. So Oregon State, Vandy, Long Beach. I picked those 3. I was very confident in those. And don't forget, Long Beach, our MLBeers podcast choice to win the College World Series. Go Dirtbags. And of course,
yes.
And of course,
go Dirtbags.
And of course, hashtag Go Beach is the official Twitter hashtag for them. In the bottom part of the top left, I chose Stanford, but Cal State won that, which I kind of felt like I knew that was going to happen. But then again, I tried to play it safe as Stanford being the number 1 in the regional. Then we have a surprise winner, Sam Houston State, out of the Lubbock Regional with Texas Tech, Delaware and Arizona, which really surprised that Arizona did not do much in that regional. And then the next regional, Florida State, which I kind of already knew that was going to happen. Mississippi State, another one that I knew that was going to happen. LSU, another one that I knew was going to happen. And another surprise entry into the Super Regional is Davidson, their first time ever making it into the NCAA tournament and making it to the Super Regional, and their first time ever for them, which is really surprising. Then we chose Iowa in the Houston Regional. It was a tough one to choose, but I wanted to go outlandish with that. But Texas A&M won that. Then Kentucky won their regional. Louisville won their regional. TCU won their regional. I chose Virginia in that situation. I thought Virginia might have had an upper hand. ACC schools have always done well, and TCU is back at it. And they will have Missouri State. It will be played in Fort Worth, so it will be played at TCU. And then Wake Forest and Florida won their respective regionals. So, I mean, that's it. That's it for right now. We just got to wait till the weekend for everything to clear up, to everybody get their rest. And then this weekend from either Friday to Sunday for some regionals or Saturday through Monday for some regionals, like the Fort Worth Super Regional. That's what will happen. The one thing that I'm kind of pissed about is I wish I didn't have to work for this weekend, because the University Traditions Council posted I believe it was on Facebook, but I saw it on Twitter, that the first 20 students that come in and sign up can go on the trip to Fort Worth. Your lodging is all paid for. Your lodging, your meal, most of your meals, as they said, and your tickets into the Super Regional. And I wish I can do that, but I have to work. Just tell the Springfield Cardinals that it's not the Springfield Cardinals. It's my steady job. I gotta keep the steady job people happy, because it will be really difficult for them to actually try to make them happy in a way. Hey, but the steady job should want you down there, though. You can give them an insider access. Oh, I know. I would love to give them the ring around, but I know it won't happen. Trust me. It's hard to deal with production people sometimes. So anyway, getting back to it real quick, we went 11 out of 16 during that time, which, I was pretty confident that we were going to do well, but not 11 and 16. I was probably thinking 13 and 16. But what can you do? You can't win them all, right? No. But, it's exciting to see the Bears down there, so we'll see what happens. And exciting to see our Long Beach State Dirtbags move forward. It'll be a fun time for them. It'd be nice if it's the Dirtbags and the Bears. It would be it would be the hardest thing to watch, because I want to be right for our podcast, but then again, I want to see my university win it all. Actually, that's a lie. I just want to see MSU win it all. Give that last ride for some of our top prospects for the draft. So. Oh yeah, sorry, my boss has sent me a couple text message, so it's okay. Again, it shows that our work lives like to get in our way the way of our enjoyment. So. Oh yeah, I know. So yeah. Today is we're going down through our usual list. We're going to be talking about the East next week, the Central, and the next 2 weeks from now we're going to be talking about the West. But now it's getting down to the nitty-gritty. As Phil said in a couple of the early episodes of this show, you're going to really tell about the tendencies about the teams when we get into June. And we're finally into June. And we have really two polar opposites with the divisions here with the NL West. Let me pull up the standings real quick. With the NL West, just to be real quick, Washington's in first, but the second place, NL East. Sorry, I like the West.
We're going West.
We're going West. Exactly.
SpongeBob and Patrick.
West. Anyway, SpongeBob. Anyway, in the East, Washington is in the lead, with 36 and 20, and then you have Atlanta 11.5 games back. It's hard to talk about a team, especially with the four teams underneath Washington having below 500 records. It's really, really hard to talk about how, what's the problems with these teams, what's going on, yada, 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 this, and that. But I'm going to shift the gear here, and instead of talking about, I guess, how poorly the teams are, we can already start talking about how they're ready to possibly do some trades at the moment. They got some trade chips going. And, for the AL East, we have this really clustered up standing right here, the lowest team only being 6 games back. And, you got to give Toronto props real quick for them.
For turning it around.
Yeah, literally turning it around for them, which is, really absurd. But, I mean, it's the game of baseball, so anything can happen at that time. And, again, of course, if you have the standings in front of you, when you're listening to this, Tampa Bay at the moment and Toronto are the only two teams that are underneath 500. But really, Tampa Bay just needs to win tonight's game in order to get back to 500. And Toronto needs 2 games to get back to 500. So they're really close. And again, Toronto's only 6 games back. And, we were thinking about this, how we were going to attack it this week. And I think I really like this. And I guess I'll go right on ahead. So, of course, we have the Washington Nationals 36 and 20, then the Atlanta Braves 24 and 31, the Mets 24 and 31, Miami Marlins 24 and 32, and the Philadelphia Phillies being 20 and 35. I will ask Phil, before we actually get into Washington and kind of praise what's going on there, are you surprised by any means? I mean, you can do it as a scale or whatever. How surprised are you that Washington is just right now the clear winner of this division and not being challenged?
Not being challenged, I would say I'm a little surprised. We both expected them to be at the top of the division throughout the whole year. Mm-hmm. But the fact that the Mets can't handle an inning has really derailed their season.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the only really team that was going to be able to compete with the Nationals.
Mm-hmm. And
the Braves and the Phillies,
yeah,
they're in the middle of a rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
We expected them to be subpar this year. The Marlins, I expect to play around 500 ball.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they're just flat out running away with the division is a little bit surprising, like about 59 games in.
Yeah, the same thing here. It's really surprising that Washington, I know they have a really good rotation, top 10 bullpen. Their starting lineups fantastic, one of the best 5 starting lineups in all of baseball. And then you just look at everybody else in that division, and it's just pure crap. And I hate to say it like that, but it truly is. I mean, I don't have everything up, but looking at the Philadelphia Phillies, just from remembering when I was looking at other things, there was only 2 people that were over 290, and they had, one of them was playing almost all the games, and the other was halfway playing the other games. I mean, there will be a guy with the Phillies that I'll talk about that does have a 295 average, but he's only been playing half the games, and he's going to be one of the guys that I'll talk about trading wise. But anyway, about the Washington Nationals, they're 8-2 the last 10 games. They're on a quote unquote 2-game winning streak. But if you look at it, if you look at the standings again, they show you everything. You can't deny that Washington has just been doing well all around. It's not, they're not playing 500 ball at home or playing 500 ball on the road. They're 16-9 at home, but even better with a 20-11 record on the road. So that, and last night especially, they took care of business with the Los Angeles Dodgers, winning 4-2. So it's just really, it's kind of just hard to look at them, to be like, where is that glaring spot out of this whole team? And again, like I said, one of the top, top 5 lineups. You have Ryan Zimmerman, a guy that, a couple years back you wouldn't think he would be doing this again, but he's hitting 372. Anthony Rendon, a 294. Daniel Murphy, a 333. Bryce Harper with a 322. So, the guys are just hitting, and they needed to hit. And another guy that's been, coming up lately has been Adam Lind. He's kind of coming in for, if I remember correctly, he's kind of coming in for Adam Eaton when he got injured during earlier in the year. But really, Lind has done well. A guy that's going 338. He has a 413 on base percentage and a 615 slugging percentage. So, it's kind of hard to see, gaps here and there with the team. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. And the only gap that I could see that you could maybe make an argument for would be Trey Turner, who's batting 260 and a 287 on base.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have his defensive stats pulled up, so I don't know how well he's playing defense at shortstop.
His defensive WAR number is a 2.8. So he's doing better. I guess he's doing better than most.
Better than average.
Yeah, better than average. But like you said, there's hardly nobody to look at. But what were you going to say?
You could look at guys like Jason Worth and Michael Taylor, who are both hitting 262. Michael Taylor has a 303 on base, but Jason Worth has a 367 on base and a 446 slugging and an 814 OPS.
See, and it's it's just really hard to really. You can nitpick all you want about this team. They're just still going to play no matter what.
Yep. So, and you can look at Joe Ross, their 5th starter, who has 30 innings pitched this year and a 7.34 ERA. You got guys.
He's been hurt, though. He's been hurt,
yeah.
though. From all the stuff that I've looked at, he's been hurt, though.
And you got a couple guys in the bullpen like Blake Teran with a 6.66 ERA and 24 innings pitched. Enny Romero, 4.62, 25 innings pitched. Coda Glover, 17 innings pitched, 4.58. Sean Kelly has 15 innings pitched, 6. The bright spot in the bullpen is Matt Albers with a 1.25 ERA and a 21 innings pitched.
He's kind of the guy at the moment that nobody was really expecting to do so well. They were expecting, middle of the line, middle of the line relieving with him, but he's really done well. And I believe in his short career at the moment, I believe he came up through the system. Let me check real quick. No, he did not come up through the system. I do apologize, I guess, for that. He played for the White Sox before. I totally forget about that because, again, the White Sox aren't that quote-unquote important to me, Yeah,
it looks like he debuted with the Astros in 2006.
So.
And then Astros, Orioles, Blue Jays, Boston, Diamondbacks, all in 2012. Indians, Astros, White Sox, Nationals.
So he's been everywhere.
Yes. And he has 106 games finished and only 2 saves.
And I guess his only 2 saves were here.
With the Nationals, yes.
With the Nationals.
Oh, man, he was... That's crazy.
What's crazy?
And 2007, he was a starter.
2007?
Yeah, he started 18 games, 110 innings pitched, a 5.86 ERA. How many strikeouts?
Okay,
71 strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
50 walks. Okay.
All right.
But he only started 3 games the next season in 2008, and then he didn't get another start until the White Sox in 2006.
Ooh. Not good. But I mean, what can you do, right?
Nothing.
Exactly. But,
go out there and be good.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing it well for them. I mean, if you look at the other guys, they're somewhat doing well. Even though you've already hit on it, I kind of want to say that Sean Kelly, even though he has a 6 ERA, he has a 10.8 K per 9 and a 4.8 walks per 9. He still has that nice high 98.5 left on base percentage.
Yeah. So, they're already winning well.
Mm-hmm.
But we know what happens when you get to the playoffs. And if you don't have a strong bullpen, which they do, they have guys that have been pitching well for them.
Mm-hmm.
But, it just comes into fruition even more in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it's early to talk about the playoffs, but right now they're looking like a lock for the East.
Exactly. And like we said before, with this division, we kind of already talked about who's going to win the division, who we're going to see. So I mean, now it's to the Atlanta Braves being the second team in the division, and instead of talking about how we're just going to look at this team and kind of gripe where bad things are happening, yada 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 yada, I want to talk about trades. And the Braves, even though they do have some players that can hit. I mean, Ender Inciarte, he's hitting .304 at the moment. Nick Markakis with a 282. Brandon Phillips, which is a guy that I have on the trades, is a 295. Matt Kemp is a 328. So now you're thinking, okay, Andrew, why is this team not doing so well? You can go through all the pitching, but you can't really blame a team for doing so poorly when you know that they're in a rebuilding mode. Would you say that, Phil?
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, you can't fault the Atlanta Braves too much.
Mm-hmm.
They're not tanking the season by any means. They're going out there and competing. They got guys that are swinging well. They're letting Dansby Swanson just like trial by fire because you see him with 193 at-bats and a 192 batting average.
Yeah, and they're just letting, the young guys go, whoever comes up through the system. So, I mean, just to do a quick look at the five starters, really the only good guy is Jaime Garcia, even though he doesn't have all the all the glitz and glamour with a high Ks per 9 or a low walks per 9. His ERA is a 3.18 though, which is better than Bartolo Colon, Mike Fultonowicz, Julio Teheran, and R.A. Dickey. Again, you can look at their relief real quick. And another guy that I'm going to talk about, Jim Johnson, has pretty much been the guy to look at. I mean, you can also say Jose Ramirez and Luke Jackson. But the reason why I don't bring up those guys and others in the mix is because, again, you have to look at it like a GM in this situation. You have to think what the Braves are going to give up, for trades, and look what they want to get back. Again, we brought up they're a rebuilding team. So, of course, when you're rebuilding, you want to get your prospects all the time. You don't want to trade veteran for veteran in these certain situations, especially when you have high money situations. And the three guys that I chose for the Atlanta Braves, with a $122 million salary this year, Brandon Phillips, second baseman, like I've said earlier, he's hitting 295, 348, and 405, and his BABIP is a 379. His walk rate, if I can talk, actually his I believe it's his walk rate. Sometimes I like to get things mixed up a little bit just to keep my head on a swivel. Anyway, his walk rate is a 5.3. His K rate is a 13.4, and Brandon Phillips is already coming in off of a trade with the Cincinnati Reds. I believe it was late last year or early this year, and he's already have $14 million. There's $14 million left on his contract, but then you got to slash it to, how many does the Braves have to pay? Well, the person that would have to get him 3/4 of it. And if somebody's making somebody's making a run towards the playoffs and needs a solid backup second baseman, Brandon Phillips is the guy. I mean, again,
but
295.
I'm pretty sure he has some trade clause in his contract because he vetoed a bunch of trades when he was with the Reds.
And yes, and I think also with that, I think he exhausted all those vetoes, but don't quote on me on that. I think I heard that he exhausted all of those, and that's the reason why the trade to the Braves actually happened. But then again, I could be wrong. I don't have everything, right in front of me. So another guy that, I brought up during this talk was Jim Johnson, right-handed reliever for them, has a 3.65 ERA, a 2.12 fielding independent pitching. His K rate, his K per 9 is 9.85. His walks per 9 are 1.82, which is really, really great, drastic numbers between. Then he's already pitched 24 and 2/3 of an innings, has 11 saves, and he has a 2-year $10 million deal contract, but it's like 5.5 this year, and then it's like 4.5 the next year or whatever to round that out the $10 million. But if you're having to pay $5 million instead of $10 million with them, I think that would be pretty good for somebody to get as to try to bulk up your bullpens, aka the St. Louis Cardinals, which their bullpen has just been atrocious. I hate to say it. It's just watching them play as being a fan. Carlos Martinez, Adam Wainwright, those guys just do so flawlessly, but then they lose 4-2 even though they're up by 2 by the 5th. It's because of the bullpen. And so I think maybe Jim Johnson would be that, really nice reliever for teams that really need a bullpen. And then a guy that I kind of just went left field on because, again, this guy was going to be, I'm pretty sure, Rule 5 pick if they just let him go, which would be Sam Freeman. He's a left-handed reliever. He has an ERA of 1.76. His fielding independent pitching is 3.83. He has an 8.22 strikeouts per 9, a lot higher 5.28 walks per 9. He's already pitched 15 1/3 innings, and really he's only $0.2 million to get if you just want to do a pure trade with him. So.
Oh yeah. And did you mention at the prospect of maybe trading Matt Kemp?
Uh, I looked at, like I said, I
I
came
didn't
in
look at
there.
his contract, so I don't know. I'm just looking at his
I
numbers.
came in there looking like a GM, and you got to look at everything, how they're doing well at the moment, and looking at the ages and looking at the contracts. I would have definitely put Matt Kemp up there, but he has, I believe, I don't have all the numbers up in front of me, but I believe he has 3 or 4 years left on his contract, over over $10 million. So that's where it kind of gets a little scary, because he's not he's not young anymore. He's in his 30s. So you're kind of, and also an outfielder, which is kind of a role that you really want young guys there. But again, he has the bat to do it. But when you trade for him, when you look for him to trade, you're going to have him for a couple of years. You're not using him as a rental like some of these guys right here. Brandon Phillips, I believe he'll go into free agency after this year. Jim Johnson will be going into free agency 2 years from now. Sam Freeman, like I said, will probably go into Rule 5 draft if he doesn't get picked up.
Yeah, I just pulled up Kemp's contract. He's signed through 2019, 8 years, $160 million.
Yeah, as you can tell, that's not really the brightest move for any team in baseball to go for.
But are the Dodgers paying some of it, and the Braves are paying some of it?
I believe so. That's how it looks at the moment. I'm gonna try to get up my source where I got all my contract stuff, which would be Cott's baseball contracts by Baseball Prospectus. Really good website for that. Just looking at the Atlanta Braves, if it wants to show up. Like I said, the Atlanta Braves have a payroll of $122 million. It would be nice to cut that off. It would be nice to cut Matt Kemp off. But right now, through the 2017 season to the 2019 season, he's looking at $21.75 million. So, I mean, it would be great. I mean, it would be, like I said, it would be great for them to get rid of that money, but he's doing well and nobody wants that contract at the moment. And you said something about how the money is going right now with that. So with Matt Kemp and the Dodgers and San Diego, I totally forget that he was on the Padres for a while. But anyways, for the next 2 years until his contract ends with the Braves, the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers pay $250,000 for including this year, and the next 2 years for bonuses, and then the trade plus cash from San Diego to Atlanta, they have to pay $2.5 million till the end of his contract. So yeah, that's the game of baseball right there for you.
Right.
Really weird contracts. So anyway, enough about contracts at the moment. Then we have the New York Mets, and like we kind of brought up, the Mets just kind of just died in a way. We weren't expecting anything like this from the Mets, how everything was going on early, but what's up?
Should we really reuse the word died when they have so many of their top players on the DL right now?
Yeah, because this franchise is almost cursed in a way. I mean, you can tell how bad this franchise is when your mascot starts flipping off the fans. So,
right.
I mean, that's how bad this franchise has been so far. And what's really interesting, they're the right now they're the team that has the highest payroll that we're going to be talking about with this. And before we get to that, just quick highlights of players that have done so well. I mean, Michael Conforto, he's the only guy. He's one of the two guys that is above 300 with a 308. Then Wilmer Flores, even though he has almost half the time that Conforto's been in with 39 games, he's hitting 313, 336, and a 496. Conforto to reinstate 308, 410, and a 628 slugging percentage. Besides that, everybody else hasn't been performing. Neil Walker has been, getting up there as of late, but Curtis Granderson just above the 200 mark. Jay Bruce, a guy that they've been talking about trading in the offseason, looks like it's not going to happen with his 248 batting average. Asdrubal Cabrera, he's been through a little bit of injuries, but he's hitting a 243. Lucas Duda is the guy that I will say he's been doing much better because he's actually been playing, and he's their first baseman. I think they kind of go back and forth with Michael Conforto and Lucas Duda, but Duda has done really well. He's a 269 batting average. Rene Rivera, their catcher, is a 277, but he only has 30 plate appearances over, I believe it would be, if I can remember correctly, TJ Rivera, I believe, is the other catcher, and he's hitting 260. But besides that, I mean, you can't really talk about Yoenis Cespedes. He's been injured, and he's only has a 270, batting average, but only 18 games. Starting pitcher-wise, their best pitcher, Jacob deGrom, has done well. He still has that high K rate at a 12.18, low walk rate with a, walks per 9 with a 3.84. His left on base, still an 80. Really the only guy that's been doing well, I mean, you could say for Zach Wheeler, he has a 3.72 ERA. His K per 9, 8.25. His walk per 9 is 3.72. That nice 76. He has a nice 77.6% left on base. But, I mean, Noah Syndergaard, he's injured. Like you said, almost everybody is injured on that lineup.
Oh,
and
yeah.
A guy that I will be talking about like Duda will be Matt Harvey, and I'll get to him in a moment, but of course we got to talk about the relief, and really kind of the guy that I looked at that really has been outshining all of them has been Jerry Blevins with a 1.42 ERA. You also have Robert Gsellman. Yeah, I actually heard the phonetics this week, and it was like Gsellman, like he's a gazelle man.
Ah, okay.
Gazelle man. Then Josh Edgin, 259. They got a lot of guys that are doing well in the bullpen, but it's the starting pitching, and their batting hasn't done well. Addison Reed has done well with 303. Juris Familia, even though he's actually out for a while, if I remember.
Yeah, he's on the 60-day DL with a arterial clot in his right shoulder.
That sounds horrible. Anything that has a clot in it sounds horrible. But again, Juris Familia, 3.68, even 8.6, even though we can't really highlight him in a way. But the guys that I thought that were going to be trade eligible for this team, first of all, I have to bring up Matt Harvey because of the whole incident where he was pretty much gone from the team for a couple days because he got a hangover from partying in 4 a.m, then playing golf in the afternoon, and then he just was tired and couldn't go to the game, and blah 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 blah. But that's been kind of the rambling for a while, through the internet and TV. Again, Matt Harvey, he has a 5.43 ERA with a 6.02 fielding independent pitching, a 6.75 Ks per nine, a 4.7 walks per nine, a 73.9 left on base percentage, which is really good. But if you look at his contract, right now he's getting paid $5 million because he's still under the options. But if they do trade him, the team will go into his third arbitration deal, and then he'll be a free agent. So there is that possibility where they can pay $5 million now. If he doesn't do so hot, they can just kind of let him go in a way, and he'll have to do some arbitration or whatever they do, kind of post a number for them, and then they'll pick him up, or however it's done. I'm not really sure how, trading players under the 5-year or 6-year rule?
6 year.
With the free agency. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember that because it's 6 years that you have to have
service before you can
service.
Post for free agency.
Yeah, so I mean, if they want to trade him to somebody, that's kind of like, okay, they can kind of have to set their own price tag if he's done horribly wrong, but then again, they could just cut him at the end of the season. But then again, he wouldn't be able to couldn't be a free agent because of that rule. So he would have to, somebody will have to pick him up and look for him for the next 2 years. Another guy that I brought up earlier, Lucas Duda, he's the first baseman. He's hitting 269, 379 on base percentage, and a 597 slugging, 282 BABIP, which is below average. He has that really nice 14.3 walk rate, but that 22.1 K rate is not really that great. But what really stand out of this guy, besides him being on a one year $7.2 million deal and then going into free agency, is that right now he has a 155 weighted runs created plus. So that is definitely, I guess you could say, A plus. Another guy that the Mets could trade for someone would be Jerry Blevins. Like I said, has really done well. 1.42 ERA, a 210 FIP, a 13.74 Ks per nine, a 426 walks per nine. He has a nice 91.8 left on base percentage. What makes him interesting is that he's the left-handed reliever, so he kind of has a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder, and he right now he is only for $5 million with an option in 2018 if the Mets want to go through it, or somebody wants to just get him for half the year. If he's done well, they can do whatever with that. But I mean, that's pretty much it with the Mets. Just looking at them, and I know that's kind of the sad thing to say, is just that's how you have to look at them, and just really move on from them. Do you have any questions for me, Phil, about the trade players?
Oh, no. From what you said about the Mets, they really don't have a lot of trade optional players that are really playing that well. Mm-hmm. Because they're rid of Conforto. Lucas Duda, you can make an argument for. Going into the season, the argument was if they start doing bad, Jay Bruce, but Jay Bruce is not hitting that well, so they're not going to trade away any of their power pitchers. Mm-hmm. So,
and not only that, they don't want to trade Michael Conforto. They don't want to trade Wilmer Flores. They don't want to trade all the guys that they have,
under team
control. And especially with Conforto, because he was supposed to be I believe, for a lack of a better saying, he was supposed to be the Kyle Schwarber of the NL East before Kyle Schwarber was supposed to be in baseball. But again, Conforto can play defense while Schwarber can't. So I guess, I mean, I don't know if that's really a jab to Kyle Schwarber, or that's just telling the truth. I mean, what can I do, right?
Right.
So, anyways, now it's to the Miami Marlins. Like we brought up earlier, they're 24-32. With this Marlins team, again, you kind of have some good players. You have Marcell Ozuna, hitting 329. Then you have Justin Bour with the 295, but he just went on to the 10-day DL list. Giancarlo Stanton, 289. D. Gordon with a 281. And JT Realmuto, he does have that power. He's hitting 290. Did you see the did you see the video of him shattering the protective glass on the fish tank around?
No.
Oh yeah, it was pretty intense.
No, the last video I watched of the Marlins was Edison Volquez getting his no hit. And they put him in their current injuries on Baseball Reference. It says Volquez is nursing an ankle injury and is undetermined as to if he will make his next scheduled start Thursday against the Penguins.
Interesting. I like the Penguins. Let's go Penguins.
I don't know when they started playing baseball, but Sidney Crosby would probably still be on the DL.
Possibly. But anyway, the JT Realmuto, just to give you a quick summary, JT Realmuto just pretty much sliced the ball foul, just had enough power on it to hit the protective screen and bust it, but he did not bust the actual tank, so that was a good thing. But the funny way they fixed it was just by applying duct tape on it.
Perfect.
I mean, duct tape solves everything.
But, looking at the Marlins, just from a trade standpoint, they really don't have anyone they're willing to get away with either, because a bunch of their guys are young, and they don't want to be in the middle of a rebuild underneath new owners.
Yeah, that's where it's kind of conflicting at the moment. I mean, earlier this past week, Jeb Bush decided to get out of the Marlins ownership deal, and now it's all up to Derek Jeter to own the Marlins. But you're kind of right about that. No new owner wants to be part of a rebuild, and I know Jeff Loria doesn't want to be into another rebuild either. But just before I get into the the trades with the teams, looking at the starting lineup. Looking at not the starting lineups, but the starting rotation, they've done somewhat well. I mean, Dan Stranley, a guy that is is Marlin controlled, is pitching 3.59 ERA with a 3.98 fielding independent pitching. Edison Volquez, he's done well for himself too with a 3.79 ERA. But then going down the list, it kind of gets a little hairy in a way. Yi Chen has a 4.33 ERA. Jose Urena, if I'm saying that correctly, has a 4.50 ERA. But those guys have half what Stranley and Volquez have pitching wise. I mean, those guys have been really the workhorse for this team, and also probably because they haven't been injured either until Volquez now. Relieving wise, I mean, you could talk about David Phelps having a 2.79 ERA, Brian Ellington with an 0.87 ERA, but really nothing to tout about, and it was kind of hard to really find players that would be okay to let go. And I mean, the two guys that I have with the Miami Marlins having if I can talk today, a $115 million payroll, and Indy Hedgevaria, shortstop for him, young guy. I believe he's still controlled. Yeah, he's still controlled with the team. He's hitting 277 with 280, 277, 288, and 385 slash line with a 309 BABIP. He has a 1.5 walk rate with a 13.4 K rate. Right now, his contract says that he has a 4.3 million this year. Then he'll go into arbitration again for next year, and then he'll go into free agency. I just thought he was a guy to go for because right now he only has 20 games underneath his belt. I believe he's been injured here and there, but I think
he's on the 10-day DL right now with a oblique, and it says he's likely to be sidelined until middle or late June.
Yeah, and even though he does have that, even though he's on the 10-day DL, there's been guys coming up for him and doing an equal job. I believe it's JT Riddle is the guy taking over his spot.
And Riddle in 95 at-bats is batting a 274, 3 home runs, 17 RBIs, and only 23 strikeouts. But you can look at a guy like Miguel Rojas, 65 at-bats, a good bench player, is batting 388, 338 off the bench. So, but again, looking at the Marlins, I just don't think they want to be trading any of their guys.
Exactly. And like I said, it was very difficult to find players that they're willing to trade. And another guy that I thought that might happen was Dustin McGowan. He's the right-handed reliever for them. Has a 3.45 ERA, a 4.06 fielding independent pitching. He has an 8.16 Ks per 9 and a 3.77 walks per 9 with a 79.9% left on base percentage. But why I think he should, be in consideration is that he only has a $1.75 million contract for this year, and then he's a free agent. So, I mean, again, if a team needs a reliever, why not him? So,
yeah. But, what is a team going to give up for a guy like that, though?
Yeah, that's the other thing, too. And, thinking about it, you would have to, either go for somebody that already has veterancy or go for prospects. And I think right here, it just has to depend how the teams are doing. You have to think of, are they ready for a rebuild or are they going to go out for it? And the Marlins, out of all these 4 teams, and maybe besides the Mets, because the Mets are kind of already all in. They made it to the World Series in 2015. They barely got in to the playoffs last year. I think the guys would want somebody, they want to go all in, get veterans, all that stuff. But the Marlins are in this weird, I guess, purgatory where it's like if they do trade off somebody, do they trade them off for veterancy and try to go in for the now, or try to, still go for, the future, even though somewhat the future is here with some of their players like Yelich, Dietrich, Ozuna, Giancarlo Stanton, all those guys. Is it really the idea to go all, give up some players and go all in now, or give up some players and go for the future, which is pretty much already here? So that's where it comes down with the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, and I don't really see them making much of a splash.
Yeah, that's another thing too.
Pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. But again, like some of these guys, I just don't see a lot of splashes going on. I don't see the Braves, giving up Freddie Freeman, for a guy, or the Mets giving up, DeGrom and all that.
So would you say the Marlins aren't really reeling in any prospects?
With the pun, yes. There's no reeling in of anybody. I think Miami is, we could talk about this in a different episode, but just kind of, I guess, foreshadowing the Miami Marlins, almost foreshadowing, just guessing. The Miami Marlins are in this weird position where they could fold, anytime, soon. soon. That's all I can say, because of how everything is going, how all the ownership is going, how the play is going, how there was only 1,500 people at the game the other week. So, I mean, a lot of things could happen with that team. So
yeah. So, what does that leave us with? Philadelphia Phillies?
Yeah, the Philadelphia Phillies, a team that we already kind of knew that wasn't going to do so well. Again, they were 20-35. I believe I had them above the I believe the Philadelphia Phillies were the team that I had last. But anyways, a quick glance over this team. Nobody really shines over the 300 mark. Nobody shines over the 300 mark, but we have guys that get close to it. Cesar Hernandez has a 288. Then Aaron Alther, if I'm saying that correctly, has a 295 ERA. Daniel Nava, even though he doesn't really have a lot of games, he has also a 295 batting average. On to the pit. If you were going to say something, go ahead.
I was just say the Phillies are a lot like the Marlins, where they've got a lot of young players on their roster right now, and they're trying to get past that rebuild mode and turn it around.
Yeah, that's correct. That is spot on, because the Miami Marlins, I will have to say, has been been out of it, quote unquote, longer than the Philadelphia Phillies, because it kind of seemed last year the Phillies were being like, okay, now it's time to rebuild. The Marlins were already in their second year of trying to get in that purgatory mode of trying to get out of the rebuilding era and move on forward. For the Phillies, again, a quick look at the starting pitching.
Can you rhyme it?
No, I can't. I can't rhyme. I can't rap. I'm white. What do you expect? But then again, we have Eminem. But what did you say? Did you say Trap Jesus?
Yeah, you're gonna have to pray to the altar of Trap Jesus.
Yeah, pray to good old Trap Jesus. Can you give these Phillies a chance into the playoffs? Yeah, that won't happen. But anyways,
if it happens, we owe him a double cup of lean.
Oh my God! I already have the ZQL upstairs. All right.
Perfect.
I mean, I told you about my cousin acting stupid, but that's a different time. We'll talk about that sooner or later, listeners, because it's a really funny story. But that's a different time. But anyways, for the pitching for the Philadelphia Phillies, nobody's in the 3 ERA mark. Jeremy Hellickson is the only guy that's in the 4 mark with a 4.5, but everybody else is above 5. Again, like you said, Phil, a lot of guys, a lot of young guys, a lot of talent, like with the Marlins that are in there, and you can mix it up with the Braves too. How they're just kind of just put them in the fire, just let them go.
Oh yeah, you got guys like Vince Velasquez, who this is his second year, but he's on 10-day DL right now. 50 innings, 558. Aaron Nola, 24 years old, 32 innings, 506. Jared Eckhoff, 26, 513. They got Zach Eflin. He's only 23, 47 innings, 8 games started, 613. So they're just kind of throwing what young pitchers would most of the time would be in a system's AAA system.
Yeah, and just get the full year in. And just go for it.
They're just letting them get a full year of MLB work in, and then just seeing what they can and can't work out and go from there.
Exactly. And, it's almost kind of a different story in a way in the relieving area. I mean, we have Pat Neshek, really great, I should say this, really great relieving. Pat Neshek right now has an 0.84 ERA. Then you have Luis Garcia.
Doesn't he have that kind of funky delivery?
I believe he has that weird, funky submarine delivery.
Like, does it kind of like jump off the mound?
I don't believe he jumps off the mound.
I'm gonna have to look it up because for some reason in my mind, I just have his delivery just being weird. I don't know why.
it probably, like I said, I believe he's the submarine guy, so he does have a weird delivery anyway. So, submariners. I mean, besides Dan Quisenberry, as they said, he could pretty much throw the ball while grazing the ground and still get a strikeout.
Right. Oh, sorry about that, guys.
That was I guess what you call ear rape these days on YouTube.
Yes.
When you just want to listen to something really loud for no apparent reason whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it's looking like he goes for almost submarine,
Mm-hmm.
and then he comes back over top of it.
Okay, yeah.
Like his arm dips down, and then it jumps back up and goes over top.
Yeah, I knew it was something like that.
That's why he stuck out to me. I'm like, why is he, like, besides his ERA, like, why is he sticking out to me? It's such, like, why do I remember him? And now I know.
Well, it's been a while since I've seen him pitch because he was in the.
Well, he's been in the league for he's 36 years old. He's been in the league for over 10 years. Well, since 2006.
Yeah, I mean, but he played for he pitched for St. Louis for, I believe, a couple of years.
Did he?
So, yeah, so that's why I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of remember what's going on.
I'm looking at his career numbers.
Yeah, the 1 year in 2014 he pitched for the Cardinals.
I'm looking at his career numbers.
Mm-hmm.
404 innings pitched, 2.82 ERA. He only has 7 saves though. 446 games.
It's not bad for him, and he's kind of another guy that you look at trading wise.
Oh yeah, because he looks like that's kind of been his MO for his career. Is just he's been kind of passed around. Yeah,
he's that freelanced reliever guy. That he pitches a couple of innings for a year, get his $6.5 million, and just go on with his life. But another guy to look at is Luis Garcia with a 1.83 ERA. Another guy that really jumps out is Hector Nervis with a 3.46 ERA. But that's kind of really it for them. He's kind of the save guy, like you said. He has 5 saves for the year, and he also has that 10.04 strikeouts per 9. So does Edubre Ramos with an 11.37 strikeouts per 9. But he has that, nice 3.55 ERA. But why do I not talk about those 3 guys that I just brought up, Ramos, Nuris, and Luis Garcia? Those guys are part of the system. They're, team option. Yep. So there was just no way they were going to give up on that. But a guy that we did just bring up, Pat Neshek, right-handed reliever, that nice .84 ERA with a 235 fielding independent pitching with an 8.44 strikeout per 9 and a 1.69 walks per 9.
So they could see a small return on him.
Yeah, you could see something from him. I mean, he has the ability to go, to do his stuff. But, again, he only has a $6.5 million contract. Then you'd be paying half of that. So, you'd be paying $3 million off of that. Another guy that we somewhat brought up earlier is Daniel Nava. He's the outfielder for them. He's hitting .295, 421, and a 433 slash line, a 320 BABIP, a 15.8 walk rate, and a 13.2 K rate. But what's nice is that if somebody does really need an outfielder, they can get him on the cheap as a trade because he's only $1.3 million this year, and then he goes in the free agency. Another guy that we kind of brought up, he's been kind of in the news a lot as a fit for the Phillies, trade-wise. Jeremy Hellickson, he has a really atrocious, and yeah, I did use the word atrocious contract for a guy that's really, really subpar. Remember, like I said, has a 4.5 ERA. His fielding independent pitching is a 5.81. His K per 9 is a 3.82 and a 2.59 walks per 9. But the reason why I bring that up, like I said, He's been in, numerous, we're not going to take deals or we're going to trade him. But if you look at his contract, $17.2 million. Nobody is going to take that half at all.
No, especially when he's hitting a 4.50 ERA. He's let up 33 runs, 13 home runs. He's walked 19. He's only struck out 28.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not a big strikeout guy. He's not a big walk guy either. So you look at that, you expect him to be a good contact guy and not let the defense do the work, not let up a lot of runs. Mm-hmm. But he's allowed 36 runs for a 4.50 ERA.
But see, you talk about contact and you want to be the ground ball guy. His ground ball rate isn't that flashy either. He's got a 35% ground ball rate. His home run per fly ball rate is a 13.1. So it's not that great from him. And like I said, I only did it because he was in talks earlier in the season before they actually gave him money. But that's really it. I mean, I don't see anybody else unless they do want to give up young talent for veterans already to go, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah. So the Phillies are a lot like the Marlins and the Mets and really the Braves of this division. There's just not a lot of tradable players. Mm-hmm. Exactly. The Phillies more than ever because they don't want to give up their young players yet.
Mm-hmm. And, I was talking to Phil off the pod before we got on, and the one thing that I was saying to him, besides it took me so long to get this, this one sheet of paper done because my laptop is such a bad laptop. It's crappy. It only has a 1.9 gigahertz processor in it. But the thing is, it was just, even though it took forever to load the pages, it just took forever to find reasonable tradable players. So I guess it kind of makes sense overall. So.
All right. So.
I mean, do you have any questions for me? That's what I should ask.
I was going to say, I think we covered that very well. Mm-hmm. I don't think we could really say much else about the Nationals taking hold of the NL East, and all of the other teams have just kind of floundered to this point, and they don't have a lot of option to do any better.
Exactly.
It'd be a different story if Freddie Freeman was still playing for the Braves right now and not injured. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that team could potentially be a lot better.
Yeah, you're totally right with that.
But if he was hitting the way he was and the team had the record they do, then he's a guy that could potentially be traded because I feel like they're going to use Swanson as the face of the franchise to replace Freeman.
Yeah, that's been kind of what I've been hearing, that Swanson would become the next guy underneath Freeman when his contract's up, and I believe his contract is up in 2020. But anyway, if that's everything you wanted to say, Phil, and if you don't have any questions for me, I guess we will go to this break here. I mean, I like these somewhat early breaks here for the MLBeers podcast. But when we come back, we will be talking about the beers that we're having, and then, of course, the American League East, a very, very tight group, a very heavy race in the middle of June. Alrighty, we'll be right back here with the MLBeers podcast. Hello, everybody. This is Andrew Sherman of the MLBeers podcast, and we are back. So now we are ready to talk about the beers that we're having today. Phil, do you want to go first on your beer?
Yes, I am drinking Boulevard's Tasting Room Series Extra Pale Ale, which can only be found either at Boulevard or in their 12-pack sampler pack. Mm-hmm. So this one included an Extra Pale Ale, a Spicy Rye Ale, and then 2 of their year rounds, which was their single wide and their wheat.
Yeah, it seems like to me when I get the sampler the sampler case, it's always wheat and single wide IPAs,
which is pretty classic.
Yeah, I mean, pale ale is really their original, but I mean, it's whatever.
Well, the pale is their original.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. It's like that's their original, but you could put it in there, but whatever, But yeah, actually, how is that extra pale ale? Like I said to you off air, I wanted to try that this week, but then I realized, the Radler's still out. So
it is actually really good. This is my first drink of it. I hadn't had it before, and just hold on. Let me take a drink. I'll give you a note.
Okay. As he drinks from the bottle.
Yeah, because all my glasses were dirty and I didn't have time to wash them.
It's fine.
But right away, you get like I don't know why they call it extra. If I knew more about beer, I would understand why they call it an extra pale ale, but I don't. But what you get right away is like that nice hoppy, crisp character that you get from a more hoppy pale ale than you would not as much as an IPA, but along those same lines, but lighter. And what changes is that it's more crisp than dry as it finishes. It mellows out very quickly. But it comes in at 5.5%, 50 IBUs. So I like it. It's good. It's something, it'd be one where you could really drink outside. And it's not one of those IPAs that are really heavy on your stomach or anything like that.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me as you're describing it. So, I mean, it sounds delicious.
No, it's good. It's good. It probably, it would taste better if I poured it into a glass. But again, that did not happen tonight. So
it happens.
You're not using your tulip tonight either.
I am not using my tulip. I am using a good old aluminum can for what I've already kind of gave a sneak peek is the Boulevard's Ginger Lemon Radler, which is to me really delicious, and it reminds me of good old summer. But anyways, what it is, it's half lemon soda and half beer? Isn't that what it's supposed to be? Or
Radler.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, it like the original way of just a normal Radler is like 50% soda or juice, then 50% beer or something like that. So it's it's like it's really carbonated. I will say that because of it, low alcohol content. It's a 4.1 alcohol by volume. It doesn't really have any bitterness. I mean, it would be like probably in 10 or lower with the IBUs. This is another nice summer drink to have outside or inside in a hot house or, in a cold house, wherever you have it. I mean, to me, it's a delicious beer. I know some people are a little bit conflicted because it does have that really sweet taste to it.
And if you had a shandy, associate it with that.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same thing.
It's pretty much the same. It's a little different, but I'm just trying to get a style that's similar. A shandy.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. Leinenkugel's, shandies, just compare it to this, and you'll get somewhat of a comparison with it. And you know what was kind of funny when I was drinking it and, talking about the Nationals, it was just like, the Nationals are probably drinking easy knowing that they have that nice 10-game cushion. So, I mean,
yeah,
it's baseball. It's baseball, folks. But anyway, on to the baseball, as I have no, I guess, historical showdown, and I haven't done one in a while. I blame 2 jobs, I guess, out of it. I'll somewhat get back to it sooner or later with it, but no historical showdowns. I've been disappointed with it.
I can tell you what my dad told me growing up about excuses.
Don't have any excuses?
Everyone's got one. Just like buttholes, everyone's got one, and they all stink.
I like that.
Granted, his choice of words were a little different, but
You're going for that PG crowd, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, we'll keep it PG.
Alrighty. Well, anyways, that's enough for the beer. And sooner or later, if we have a historical showdown. But anyways, now on to the AL East. If we're gonna look at this,
before we get too far, when you come to town to get your baritone, you need to let me know, and we could get a beer.
Yeah, I can do that. It'll be next week, but I think you'll be busy, so that's the thing.
Oh yeah, I will be busy.
So, yeah, I don't know when this performance will happen. I still got to get the sheet music, but I mean, a nice beer with you would be fun. Record it and just make it as the show for the week. That would be fun.
Yeah, just do a
live recording of us drinking for no apparent reason whatsoever.
Oh my God! Do you see what Scooter Gennett is doing against the Cardinals right now?
He's probably going for the cycle. I don't want.
He's hit 3 home runs and collects 8 RBIs.
Yeah.
He's going to become he has a chance to become the 17th player to hit 4 home runs in a game. Yeah. One of them was a grand slam.
Yeah, it's been not a good year for.
Why is Scooter Gennett doing this?
Because if we're looking at the Cardinals at the moment, even though we should be talking about the AL East, they're already in the bullpen with Brebbia, if I'm saying that correctly. He's a new guy. He came in for John Gant, which we got this year. Like I said, like I've been saying throughout this whole thing, we've just been having bullpen problems.
Scooter Gennett's already 4 for 4. He singled in the first.
Well, I don't think that will happen unless they just keep on scoring, which is a possibility since they are up 11-1.
Yeah, I just got the bad app alert, and I was just like, why am I getting an alert for Scooter Gennett? Scooter
Gennett, a guy that we hardly ever talk about anymore, but it happens.
Hey, we're talking about him right now, so.
Exactly.
Baseball. What have you done for me lately?
Baseball. That's what you got.
And if you don't know what that line is from, you need to watch Chris Rock's stand-up.
I will have to do
that.
No,
Eddie Murphy. I'm sorry. Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy's.
I will have to do that because that sounds funny.
Eddie Murphy Raw back in the 80s. He wears red leather jacket, and oh my God, that stand-up will have you rolling.
Baseball, what have you done for me?
Well, he doesn't say baseball, what have you done lately? I mean, his whole bit of arguing with your girlfriend, wife, or significant other is the woman is always asking you, what have you done for me lately?
Oh, okay. That makes sense. But it still works for the game of baseball.
It does, because it matters what have you done lately, not what have you done overall. What have you done for me lately?
And, if as a great segue, what have the American League East done lately? You have the New York Yankees leading the standings with a 32-22 record. The Boston Red Sox are finally over the hump over the Baltimore Orioles. They are 31-25. The Orioles 29-26. The Tampa Bay Rays are 1 game under 500 with a 29-30 record, and the Toronto Blue Jays thought they were already out of the season, but has fought back through the month of May and a little bit of early June with a 28-30 record. And you want to talk about what they've been doing lately? The Yankees with a 5-5 the last 10, Boston 6-4 last 10, 4-6 for the Orioles, 5-5 for the Rays, and Toronto with a 6-4 record with their last 10. So, what have you done for me lately has been the thing for them.
And looking at what hitters have done lately for the New York Yankees, first and foremost, you still want to look at Aaron Judge. 42 at-bats in the last 14 days, 11 RBIs, 3 home runs, 357. Aaron Hicks is batting .390. Matt Holliday is having a nice resurgence as a full-time DH. He's hit four home runs, 283. Ooh.
Gregorius.
Yeah, I had it, and then it didn't allow me to say it.
You had it, and then you fell the cliff.
Yes. And, you kind of see some of those guys that are kind of faltering for them this last 2 weeks. Him coming in with a 250, Starlin Castro 239, Chase Headley 194. Gary Sanchez is batting a 235, but he's had 2 home runs and 4 RBIs in the last 14 days. Chris Carter, I guess if you want to count him, he's had 25 at bats, but only 1 hit, 1 home run, and 11 strikeouts in the last 14 days.
With a abysmal .08.
0.08. Yeah.
Average. So
you kind of get the picture of who's really carrying the team right now. Aaron Judge, Aaron Hicks, and Matt Holliday. And then, you flip over to what are the pitchers doing? You got Luis Severino. I had it. Severino with 3 games started, 1.27 ERA. Jordan Montgomery, 3 games started, 1.06, and all this is in the last 14 days. Tanaka is the one pitcher that's kind of getting knocked around for them right now. 2 games started, 5.54. CC Sabathia is having a nice little comeback with 2 games started, 2.13. Then Michael Pineda is 2 games started, 5.73 ERA.
And before you go on to the relievers, we also have to say for Sabathia and Tanaka, they have the really, really high Ks per 9, 11.77 for Tanaka, and Sabathia with 11.37. And, what's even...
we do have a timeout. Scooter Gennett did it.
God, no. No.
He went 5 for 5 today.
No.
All right, hold on. Let me...
I have it up.
Do you?
Yeah, Scooter Gennett, 5 for 5, goes deep for the 4th time, the first to achieve this feat since Josh Hamilton in 2012, and the 17th ever.
13-1, the Reds.
Yeah.
Sorry, a little bit of history for you guys. I know we're talking about the Yankees, but when something exciting happens live, I know the Cardinals, your team, is on the sword end of this stick, but you got to appreciate it.
Seems like it's been that every day this year.
But you got a guy like Scooter Gennett who no one expects to go 5 for 5 and hits 4 home runs in a single in 1 game. That's pretty exciting.
We'll be back to the promised land.
Just,
we'll be back to
just appreciate that something weird happened in baseball today.
Yep. I'm going to cry after this.
Get a stronger beer to make yourself feel better.
I have one more Radler, and then if I have the ability to go to the gas station, I'll probably get whiskey.
I got a little bit of straight whiskey in this nice little mason jar.
I like how you have it in a mason jar.
I had a little bit of ice left over from my first drink, so I just poured it in there and called it good.
All right, yeah, nothing bad with that.
All right, so let's get back to these Yankees. Where were we at?
I just finished talking about how Masahiro Tanaka and CC Sabathia both have 11 plus strikeouts per 9.
Yeah, and but with Tanaka, if he's not striking someone out with a 5.54 ERA the last 14 days, it seems like he's leaving stuff over the middle, getting hit around. But you can look at some of the bright spots. Look at their bullpen. They got a guy, Dylan Patansis. He has 2 saves, and he hasn't let up a run in 3 innings in the last 2 weeks. This is 2 weeks, guys. And so Chad Green, 675. Jonathan Holder looks like he got beat up a little bit in his 4 innings, 1038. Tyler Clippard, 415. But he has 4 strikeouts. Panansis has 7. So, it looks like this team is just still, from when we talked about him a month ago, it's the same MO.
Yeah. There's nothing really much to say about it. They're still still rocking it. They still have, Aaron Judge still hitting home runs, still, all the players, all the, I guess, secondary players really coming up for them. The pitching has done well. I mean, what's really been interesting is that they've, looking at it, sometimes you bring in a lot of starting pitchers in if you're not confident with one pitcher. But, I mean, they're not doing that. They still have their five. No. They still have their starting rotation from day one in. So that's
which, barring any injury, they'll be a lot like the Cubs of last year, who made it through the whole season with their starting five.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where it comes into play, where it's, it's all about health. And of course, when you get into August and September and you've locked up a playoff spot, and maybe if you locked a division spot, you can kind of relax those guys, get some other, younger guys from AAA or some of the relievers in to be their starters. But right now, it's looking good for the Yanks.
It is. And, there's really not a whole lot else we could really say about them because, they're not really in a position to where they need to make a big splash at the deadline for any specific position. They have, and when you get to the playoffs, you don't necessarily need a starting five. You need a starting three, a starting four. So if a guy like Tanaka is just not figuring it out, you can opt to have someone else not have to pitch. And you can go back to guys look at what Jeremy Guthrie did with the Royals. He didn't in 2015. He wasn't one of their main starting pitchers through the playoffs.
But see, that's another thing too.
And I'm not saying Tanaka is Guthrie by any means.
You're just saying how it's done.
Yeah.
And another thing too, it's like once you have your set three, you kind of, you put those other two starting pitchers in relief. So you never know if you need to go, split games with your original three starters with the other two, or if you need some guy to be, maybe reverse it, have the reliever go first, then have the starter go, and you can do that with the Yankees. But I mean, that last part's more of a dream than anything else. But they have the opportunity to have those players be in a comfortable spot once they get into the playoffs, have those three, have those four, where they can just go after it.
And if, the Yankees are really looking to make a splash, because Chapman is on the DL, I believe, right now. So depending on how his injury plays out, you could maybe see them going after another reliever. And I think that would be the only kind of trade situation they would kind of go after. But besides that, do you really have a whole lot? What else do you have to say about the Yankees? You got any questions?
I really don't have any questions for the Yankees. I mean, the only question is how many times has Aaron Judge been tested for PEDs? But, I mean, that's just an offshoot question. I mean, Eric Thames is a guy that has hit home runs, and he's actually been vocal about that too.
Yeah.
So,
but who knows? Eric Thames and Aaron Judge are kind of two different players.
Yeah, that's two different stories. So
yeah, so maybe the MLB is just a little bit more skeptical of Thames coming over from the KBO and being able to produce like he is now. As in, Judge has always been touted as he has this kind of home run power. It's just untapped.
Exactly.
But all right, so that leads us into the Red Sox, that
leads us into
who we both thought would claim like the top spot of this division.
And only 2 games back in the in the division, 31-25 for the Red Sox. For the Red Sox, though, looking at all the players, looking at all the games played, if this will let me see it real quick. Xander Bogaerts, looking at the last 14 days. Xander Bogaerts, 358. Mookie Betts hasn't done well. Devin Mascherano Mesoraco. No, it's not Mesoraco, because that's a guy. That's a different guy.
Devin Mariaro.
I'll go with that. I've had too many of my Radlers today. No, I'm kidding. But I can tell that
You don't have to lie. It's okay.
I can tell that I'm slipping a bit. Anyway, Jackie Bradley Jr. with a 297. Then you have Mitch Moreland with a 324. But that's kind of really it out of the guys that have been playing. The high 13 to 12s. Then it starts going off a little bit.
Oh yeah, Sandy Leon, 130. Christian Vasquez, one of the what they kind of thought would be their all-time starting catcher. He's in 6 games hitting 391. So he it looks like him and Leon are splitting time. Dustin Pedroia has only played 6 games, 333. Sandoval has only played 5 games, 313. And then we got Sam Davis and Chris Young. They played 5 games. Sam Travis is hitting 500. Chris Young is hitting 231. And we kind of talked about Chris Young and Andrew Benintendi about maybe almost splitting time.
Yeah, and
being a platoon situation, and Benintendi has played 12 games in 14 days and is hitting 225.
And looking at it, Benintendi actually kind of went through the system. He wasn't thrown in like how we talked about how the Phillies and the Marlins have to do that. Throw
he's
their
22
young
years
guys.
old.
Yeah.
He's 22 years old, so he's maybe a little young for the threshold, but he was brought up through the system, and this was kind of seen as his time.
And
it wasn't a rushed situation to where we need him up here right now.
And I will say that I totally forgot about this, but he's 22 now. I believe when I believe when Boston got him, it was 2015 when he played for the Arkansas Razorbacks, which he played against our Missouri State Bears in the Super Regional down in Fayetteville. So I mean, this guy, he's very young. He can do it. I mean, top prospect, of course, as a draft pick, but he's getting this time. He's having his struggles like Dansby Swanson over with the Braves.
Yeah. But for the year though, he's hitting a 269.
Yes.
And he already has 100 more at bats than he did last year. And so a guy like that who spent time in college for at least 22? So he spent at least 2 years in college. You kind of expect him to be on a fast track.
Exactly.
Because he didn't have the luxury of spending his 18, 19, 20, 21 going from A, double A, triple A.
Well, if you're doing well in college, usually you go to triple A, double A sometimes. Mostly you'll hit that high single A. But Benintendi was doing so well in those groups that he just progressed so fast to the MLB.
Yep. And another strong point of what you and I both hit on for the Red Sox this season was their starting and bullpen pitching. And they finally got David Price back,
which has been helping my fantasy team very, very much.
And because in his 2 games, his pitched 12 innings, so 6 innings a game, has an even 3 ERA. Drew Pomeranz has 2 starts, 13 innings, 2.08. Chris Sale, surprisingly, has a high 5.40 ERA, but still has that absurd 11.8 strikeouts per 9. But that's not even the highest of the starting rotation.
Yeah,
Drew Pomeranz has a 13.2.
Yeah, and just to get back on Chris Sale real quick, I mean, he finally got hit at. I mean, it was kind of funny that he got hit at when he came back home against the White Sox, but he finally got his. He was riding high. He was on some type of record where he was. I can't remember what the record was. A streak that he was going on where it was just like he was throwing like at least 10 strikeouts per game for a length of time, I believe. He was trying to beat out his own record. But anyways, he just finally got hit on by the Chicago White Sox. And it kind of showed. I mean, of course, his ERA, but I'm pretty sure if you look at the whole season, his ERA is, less than 3, maybe in the 2s. So,
yeah. And then Rick Porcello coming in with a 4.26, and then Eduardo Rodriguez, 5.40 ERA again. But you got to really attribute Brian Johnson, who looks like he made a spot start for him.
Mm-hmm.
9-inning game, complete game shutout.
Yeah, which is phenomenal for a guy like that.
Who just comes up and gets. But then their bullpen, you got Heath Embray, 135, 6 innings pitch. You got Matt Barnes, 6 innings pitch, even 3 ERA. Craig Kimbrell, he has 4 saves, 5 innings pitched, 159. Blaine Boyer, 5 innings pitched, 169.
Yeah.
Joe Kelly has pitched 3 and 2/3 innings and has a 0. The only guy in their bullpen that got blown up was Fernando Abid with 1 1/3 innings and a 13.5 ERA.
Which is kind of funny because his K per 9 is equal to that. 13.5.
Yeah, and their top pitcher in their bullpen is Craig Kimbrell with a 19 and 1 strikeout per 9.
I mean, this team is finally, getting their strides in. It seemed like it was taking a while for these guys to really get something going. Of course, I mean, we could talk about the Baltimore Orioles, in a couple seconds, but they were kind of, the Baltimore just did something better than what the Red Sox were doing. Red Sox had their little troubles early in the start. Now they finally got all their, the starters finally back in, and it's going to be a different story, pretty much. Yeah.
And that's what, with David Price coming back, has significantly helped. It's taken even some of that pressure off their bullpen because they know they got a guy like Price. But even then, the bullpen was still producing, and they're only 2 games back of the Yankees.
Yeah, exactly. And
so,
my question to you, thinking about it, I guess if it's a trade question, I'll save it for later for the trade show when we talk about trades a little bit more. You see, I guess my question would be, from the bullpen, do you see them trading off, late game closer opportunities with these guys doing so well, like Heath Embray, having a 1.35 ERA, Blaine Boyer with that 1.69, Joe Kelly with that 0 ERA. Do you actually see them trading that off with Craig Kimbrell to give him a bit of a break, or do you just see him just as the closer if needed? Because I know that's how they do it in baseball, is he closes if needed, but just in case.
Like a bunch of old school managers, this is his role. This is when he pitch, no matter what. And you and I both agree that we wish baseball would get away from that. I would love to see Craig Kimbrell come in, bottom of the 7th, up by 1, 2 runners on, come out of the bullpen and just shut it down. Use them more of a high leverage situations. But do I see them not purposely giving him a break? Maybe towards late in the season, September. Maybe giving him an extra day or 2 off. But I think with most relievers, they like to stay in a certain routine because they're not going out and throwing a bunch of pitches every single day. Every single day. And so, that's kind of where I see it. I don't see them really purposely giving him a break.
Okay.
Until later in the season, depending on where they're at in the standings.
Okay, well that makes sense. I mean, I don't see anything different with that. So,
what are we over to the Baltimore Orioles?
Yes, a team where they seem so hot, but now has fizzled, in a sense.
And you could attribute that to just what they've done in the last 14 days. As what we're talking about. Manny Machado, 204 batting average. Chris Davis, 196. Then you got a guy like Jonathan Shoop.
No, it's Scope. It's Scope.
Is it Scope?
It's Scope.
I don't like that. And why is the CH there?
It's Scope. I've looked it up. Look it up. You look it up. I'll take over. Alrighty.
I believe you. I believe you.
Okay, I was about to say.
I believe you. So he's coming in at 341, which is a bright spot for their lineup. But everyone else who has had significant playing time, besides Joey Rickard, is hitting below 300.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Trumbo, 233. J.J. Hardy, 237. Trey Mancini, 273. Adam Jones, last 14 days, 10 strikeouts, 125 batting average.
I mean, but you got to give Trey Mancini some credit, though. He's hitting, above average. These other guys, like you named off of, below average.
Yeah, they're all below, hitting below the 260 mark.
Yeah.
And that's really surprising for Manny Machado. And even Chris Davis, his 196 batting average is low for him. But he's had 3 home runs in that time, but he's struck out 23 times.
Yeah, I mean his K rate on here is at 48.9.
See, and then Hyun-Soo Kim is it looks like in his 5 games, 11 at bats, 364. So they got really just 2 or 3 guys that have been producing for them the last 14 days, and that's why you can see they're dropping the standings. And if we flip over to what their pitching is doing, Dylan Bundy is really the only bright spot on him and Kevin Gossman, the only really bright spots on the starting rotation right now. Chris Tillman's coming in with a 7.90 ERA. Alec Asher, when his 2 starts, 6.97. Wade Miley's not pitching that bad, 3.75. Gossman 3, and Dylan Bundy 2.84. But when you have 2 guys that have pretty much 7 ERAs, and then a bullpen, well, we can't forget Gilberto Jimenez.
Well, can I say
he hasn't started? They're using Gilberto Jimenez as a reliever.
Yeah. Can I say one thing though, real quick?
Yeah.
Looking at the starting pitching, we bring up their ERAs, but they're not flashy either. I mean, Dylan Bundy has a 663 strikeout per 9. Chris Tillman with a 461. Wade Miley with a 375. Alec Asher with a 648. And Kevin Gossman with a 450. I mean, hell, actually, if you look at it correctly, Chris Tillman has a walk per 9 more than his strikeouts per 9 with a 527. So, I mean, they're not flashy and they're not getting their stuff done, even though some of them, besides Tillman and Asher, those other 3 guys are getting somewhat the job done, but not enough. And, of course, you can always see that they're on a 2-game skid. They're 4-6 out of their last 10. But what were you going to say about Gilberto Jimenez being as a reliever now for them?
I just can't believe it.
I can.
Like, I know they want to use him because they're paying him money. But, he's pitched 2 games, so, he 3.5 innings for each outing. And in the 7 innings, he has 7 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. So he lets up a hit and a strikeout every inning he's pitched. And he's let up a run in all but 3 innings. And then you turn around and you got guys like Richard Blair. I'm
going to go with Blair just for the sake of it.
In his 6 innings pitched, he has a 0 ERA. Darren O'Day, 180. But then you got Mike Wright in 5 innings, 9. But then you got Michael Givens and Brad Batch with exactly, they each have 3+ innings pitched, have a 0 ERA. Then Logan Verrett, 9. Darren Hart, 6.75, and Tyler Wilson at a 9. So, their numbers for their bullpen and starting pitching is really not. It's not flashy, but it's not terrible either.
But what is the one guy that you're missing out of this? That is the difference maker for this Orioles team.
Zach Britton is out right now.
Zach Britton, and he is the guy that usually does everything correctly for them. He's the closer. He gets the stuff done, and it's. As to me, some of the guys are doing it. I mean, Darren O'Day is a guy that has been getting it done, and so is Brad Batch. Kind of, it would be like the DBB or whatever, however you want to, if you want to make acronyms like the old school 2015 Royals bullpen.
K.
No,
W.
it would be the last names.
HDH.
Yeah, HDH. So it's like Darren O'Day, Brad Batch, and Zach Britton. It would be BDB, BDB, or BOB, whatever, however you want to take it. But it's like those are the guys that do that. But with Zach Britton out, it's difficult for them to really catch on.
And Brad Batch, in his last 14 days, he does have 2 saves.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got to maybe taken over that role for Zach Britton until he's able to return.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I don't know what else I could say about the Baltimore Orioles. They're kind of a team that is, again, going through a little bit of a tough patch, like I said.
And you could see them maybe making more of a splash at free agency, and not free agency, trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they're 3.5 games back of the division. They're a game and a half back of the Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the wild card race for the AL, they're competing against the Indians and the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yeah, go ahead.
You could see them, because they have position players that are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
They have a bullpen that is not struggling but could use some help. And, I don't know the full prospects of the Orioles, but I don't think they would be willing to trade off any of the top tier, but maybe that lower 20 prospect list for theirs to get a average or maybe above average position player or reliever, which I see them going more pitching than position.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. And, just to, solidify why they're doing so poorly, it's hard to go with going against Boston the last series. The series before was New York, which they actually won that series, and they split against with Boston. And then the series before the Yankees was against Houston. So, I mean...
And Houston's just on a
tear.
On a tear. Like what? If they win tonight, it'd be 12 in a row?
If they win tonight, yes, it will be 12 in a row for that team. So...
And they're 42-16, so they have a better record than the Nationals.
Yes, and we could see a Houston Astros Washington Nationals World Series, possibly, but let's not count our chickens before they hatch, or whatever that quote is.
We're not farmers.
Yeah, well, I'm somewhat.
Maybe I was about to say you weren't you? Your dad?
My dad's a farmer, but it's like don't count your chicks before they hatch or whatever, or don't count your eggs before they hatch. No, it's count your chicks before they hatch, because you never know if they die, like the Orioles, which they're halfway there almost. But anyways, you know what? Let me take over this one. I've had an easy road tonight, talking about old trades, nothing biggie going on in the National League East. We are going to talk about the lovely Tampa Bay Rays, and right now the Rays are 29-31 game back, of course, 5.5 games back behind the Yankees. But looking at a Rays team that you're not expecting them to do much at all. They had a little at first part of the season. They had a little run, but I mean, hell, almost half the damn teams had a little bit of a run beginning. But now they have finally cooled down even more. We've had hilarious slides from Kevin Kiermaier where he accidentally slipped or dove for the ball, as you could say, 20 feet away from the ball. So that was really funny. But, looking at this team the past 14 days, you got guys like Corey Dickerson with a 308 batting average, Steven Souza Jr. with a 318, and Kevin Kiermaier, the man that can try to dive 20 feet away, has a 327.
Just about a month ago when we last talked about them, he was having a lot of problems fielding ground balls out in center field.
That is true. That is true. I totally forgot about that. I guess you could say it's his fault for not actually putting the glove down in the ground
and putting his body in front of it and trying to run up and throw it.
Yeah.
He's scooping to the left instead of putting his body in front of it.
Yeah, that was me in high school, not high school, but college club baseball.
Fundamentals.
You could say that about the Cardinals too, but we're not here about to talk.
That's why Scooter Gennett has 4 home runs.
There you go. I mean, that's pitching. So I mean, you can't play if you can't pitch. I mean, if you can play defense, but the pitcher hits home, gives up home runs, what can you do, right? But anyway, so besides that, looking down at the at the lineups, Colby Rasmus has done well too with a 303, but how are the other guys? Your supporting cast. Ricky Weeks is pretty much the only guy that has done well, even though he's only played in 7 games with a 286. But you look at, Evan Longoria, I guess you could say captain of this team, with a 239, Logan Morris with a 225, Tim Beckham with a 250, and Daniel Robertson with a 222 batting average. And I mean, if you want to talk about Derek Norris with a .071 batting average, but
did you hit on Steven Souza?
Yeah, I talked about Steven Souza. That was my first guy.
Okay, that's why I missed it. Okay.
Yeah, he's phenomenal at the moment. Let's just go through the slash line real quick. 318, like I said, 423 on base percentage, and a 705 slugging, which then, doing the math, that's that's 1.1 on base
2.8.
plus 2.8
Yep.
plus slugging.
Yep.
On base plus
5
slugging.
home runs, 10 RBIs, and only 13 strikeouts.
Exactly. And, his isolated power is a 386 and his BABIP's a 346. So he's doing pretty well, and, his weighted runs created plus is a 202. But let's talk about the pitching, shall we? The pitching...
Yeah, the pitching of the last 14 days has not been a bright spot.
Exactly.
They had, Matt
ahead.
Andrizi had a really good start. Well, he's had 2 starts with 9 2/3 innings pitched with a 186.
Mm-hmm.
And then besides that, for their starting rotation, Chris Archer is the next guy on the ERA leaderboard for the last 14 days, and he's coming in at 368.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex Cobb, 3 starts, 727. Ramirez coming in with a 643, and Jake Odorizzi coming with a 563.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Danny Farquhar.
Yeah, Farquhar.
That just reminds me of the king from Shrek.
Yep, I knew you were going to say that.
Yep. And, in his 7 2/3 innings pitch, a 939.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a bunch of their bullpen guys over a 2. Tommy Hunter, 284. Alex Comey, 142, which is he's looks like to be their closer of the last 14 days because he has 4 saves.
Mm-hmm.
So, it Rays are a little interesting case. Like, they're not that far back of their wild card race either because they're only a game back of 500.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland only has 29 wins. Angels only have 29 wins, and the Rays have 29 wins.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is the Indians are 29-26, and Angels are 29-31. So we're talking about teams for the wild card that are the Orioles and the Red Sox, and only a couple of those teams are above 500.
Exactly. And
so it makes this division just so cramped and convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard to really see where it's going to go.
Yeah, and, it's interesting that with the relief pitchers amount, Jose De Leon, the only reason why I'm bringing him up is he was part of that Logan Forsythe trade earlier in the season with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he's not doing so well either. His one appearance during the last 14, even though he got the quote-unquote win, per se, he has an ERA of 10.13 with a 6.75 strikeout per 9 and the same walks per 9 as his ERA. So, just looking at this team, they're really, they got guys to, do it in the bullpen. Some of their starters are, hit and miss. Again, like you said, Matt Andarizi and Chris Archer are really their only two guys that are, that are below 4 ERAs and that. And I think the one thing that I will have to say about these Rays is they can do so well, but they're in a tough division. And I think the only way to, to go over the edge, go to the next level, that's what I'm trying to say, is that if Evan Longoria starts getting his bats going. I mean, 239 at the moment. Let me check his season total. I believe it would be like 250, middle of the road type of guy. 248. I was really close with that. If he's, like I said, he's the guy that would really, push them over the edge, and he needs to do it for this club. Like I said earlier, he is the captain of this team. So why not start going out there and start kicking some A for this team and, give a shot, give it a chance. I mean, we've been talking about it, only 5.5 games back, 2 out of the wild card. So, I mean, a lot of things could happen until August, September, but, he's just got to do something for them.
And going back to your segment of trades, I don't be able to see them to really make any good moves to really, really help them unless they are just kind of go all in and they give up some of their top 15, like one of their top 15 prospects.
Mm-hmm. Well,
not top 5, but anywhere between like 8 to 15, somewhere in there, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I mean,
because they don't want to completely sell, but if they could do away with 2 of those guys, and depending on where they're at by July, whatever, make that run and maybe get a playoff game or a playoff series under their belt to build onto next year.
Exactly. You really hit the mark on that one. It's either rebuild or go all in for them. So,
yep.
Anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that leads us to the Blue Jays, and I wanted to do something a little different with the Blue Jays.
Okay.
Instead of looking at the last 14 days,
okay,
I'm going to look at their stats since May 1st. So pretty much a month and a couple days. Because the last time we talked about them, they were in the cellar. They're technically still in the cellar, but they have drastically improved. So, kind of want to look at guys like Josh Donaldson, like Kendrys Morales, and I wanted to bring up. Do you happen to have their injury report in front of you?
I do not have the injury report in front of me, but give me a second, and I'll have that up for you.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. My computer decided to work a lot quicker than usual, and just looking at who's injured for them now.
Okay, go ahead.
Josh Donaldson's off the DL. J.P. Howell is on the DL. Steven Pierce, Aaron Sanchez, Bo Schultz, Devin Travis, Anthony Alford, and Daryl Cecilini. So really the only big names on there are Aaron Sanchez, J.P. Howell, Steve Pierce, and Devin Travis. But since May 1st, they have guys like Jose Bautista, 9 home runs, 275 batting average. Justin Smoke, 11 home runs, 297. I mentioned Devin Travis. He's on the DL right now, but he was batting 352. Kendrys Morales, 7 home runs, 290. Ezekiel Carrera, 276. Darwin Barney, 185. But then you look at what Josh Donaldson's done since he's been able to come back. He's had 9 games, 36 at-bats, 4 home runs, a 667 slugging, and a 250 batting average. So you see some of their guys like Bautista starting to get back on track.
Yeah.
Because the beginning of the season, Bautista was just terrible. and you have a guy like Justin Smoke who's leading the team in home runs for the month.
Mm-hmm.
So you're starting to see maybe a comeback from the Blue Jays.
And I mean, I think besides Josh Donaldson, getting his numbers back, I think Troy Tulowitzki will have to get his numbers back up too. I mean, I have the last 30 days. I can't be that specific with your selection, through the days. But Troy Tulowitzki, through that, he's only played 9 games.
It's the same over here. 233 batting average.
Yeah, 233 batting average. 1 home run, 2 runs, 4 RBIs. He just hasn't done enough. But then again, he's been injured. He's been, he's kind of like Josh Donaldson. They've both been injured.
And Tulo, though, that's kind of been his MO, though.
That is true.
Donaldson, this is kind of weird for him. That calf injury has really just it's derailed the beginning of the season for him.
Well, I remember one game during that time where he was injured that he almost did a Kurt Gibson and come out of the dugout, all bandaged up,
Yep.
looking, and he just, didn't really hobble to the box. But he was just like, okay, yeah, you can tell that he's grimacing a little bit because of his injury, but let's try to win this game. And they lost to the Brewers, so.
Yeah. But, look at since May 1st, their starting pitching. They have guys that have made at least 7 starts. Estrada and Stroman. Estrada coming in with a 468. Stroman a 352. How's his name?
Joe Biagini.
Biagini. All right. So you want to Biagini and rub the magic lamp. 394. And then Mike Bolsinger, 561.
Mm.
And then the other guys that have made starts for him that are hurt now. Aaron Sanchez, he made 2 starts in the last month, 245.
Mm-hmm.
Francisco Liriano has only made 3 starts, but only 10 innings at a 10-13.
Mm-hmm.
J.A. Happ, only 9 innings pitched, 675. And I'm just hitting on guys that have made starts for him so far.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at their bullpen ERA, they got Ryan Tepera, 18 innings pitched, exactly 1 ERA for the month.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Smith, 15 and a third, 293. Robert Osuna, 10 saves, 14 and 2/3 innings pitched, 123. Dominic Leone, 338. Aaron Loop, 292. And then jump down to Jason Grillet. He has 9 innings pitched, 9 ERA. So they've gone away from using him. J.P. Howe, we hit on him. He's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
643. Lionel Campos.
Mm-hmm.
He has 6 1/3 innings pitched, 284. So the team has really been able to turn around their bullpen pitching for the lack of starting pitching.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's actually kind of they've turned it around because of injuries. Now they're finally getting those the injury bug is leaving Toronto and finally getting out of there and just they're actually getting their players back, and that's what's happening.
Yeah, and you can see it. They've been able to climb the standings. They're only a game back they're only a couple games back from being 500.
Mm-hmm.
They're only 2 games out of the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to happen for them.
Yeah, and just looking at it all real quick, it's just really interesting to see all of that happening. And
the cool thing about Justin Smoke, he had 11 home runs since May 1st. He only has 15 home runs for the year.
So he was catching fire in May.
Yeah, and he's hitting 287 for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Devin Travis was hitting 291 before he got hurt. Ryan Gomes is hitting 283 in place of Tulo.
Mm-hmm.
And then Carrera, we hit on him. He's hurt right now, but he's hitting 355. Pilar for the year, hitting 291.
Mm-hmm.
Pilar's hitting 270. Jose Batista, we talked about how he's hitting 275 for the month. Was able to raise his batting average to 233. So he was down below 200 for a while.
Sorry, I was counting something real quick, and you bring up May, you go to the 1st of May. And I was just looking at it from May 1st to now, is that they've had 20 wins to their repertoire.
Yeah.
During that time. So that, and really good opponents. The Yankees for the first week, then they played against the Rays, but they played against the Indians. And then, they had the Mariners. They had the little lulls with the Mariners where they swept them against them, and then they got swept by the Braves. But then, well, actually, no, that's a lie. They lost 3 out of the 4 games against the Braves. But then once they got to play against Baltimore, they lose their first 2, and then they win the last game. They sweep Milwaukee. They get 2 out of 3 with the Texas Rangers. They sweep the Cincinnati Reds, and they go 50-50 against the Yankees, and they lost yesterday to the Oakland Athletics.
Yeah. So overall, the team is just as a whole, if you win 20 games in a month, you played less than 30 games in a month.
Mm-hmm.
So they won the month.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just seeing where they're at now, it would be interesting to see where they go from here.
Yeah.
If they keep trending up, you maybe see them on a market for a starting pitcher,
mm-hmm.
just because of what Liriano has not done for them. I don't really see them going after too many position players because Ryan Goins has been able to step up as Tulo's been gone. Darwin Barney's been all right, and they don't really have. I don't think they have the really payroll to go after a big name guy.
Mm-hmm. Same thing here too, and I think they're gonna be cautious, like you said. They're gonna be cautious,
and it make a move. I think they'll lean towards a starting pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not a 1 or a 2, maybe a 3 or a 2 kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's what they were wanting to get more out of Liriano than what they've gotten.
Mm-hmm. Well, is that everything, Phil? I don't have anything to say about the Toronto Blue Jays anymore.
For the Blue Jays, no. That's all I got for them. I think we wrapped them up pretty well. They're surprising. They're because from what last time we talked about them, they were in the cellar, and just to see where they're at now is a good thing for baseball.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and I think overall, looking at the AL East, I think it will be a fun ride till the end. Unlike the NL East, where it's like you don't want to watch any of those games over there except for the Nationals if they're playing against your team. So it's just like, what's really the point of watching NL East baseball when half the teams are rebuilding, half the teams can't even play 500 ball. What's the point of watching? So that's really it for me.
Yeah, just the Nationals are going to run away. We'll see if the Nationals are able to run away with it and maintain. Because if they are, it will make it a very exciting playoffs to see. Mm-hmm. And if Mike Trout is able to come back and play in the playoffs, if it is at all possible, have a Mike Trout, Bryce Harper World Series.
It would be interesting, but the Angels have to do some stuff for them to succeed, and especially, like you said.
Speaking of the Angels, we need to talk about Pujols getting his 600.
Oh, yes. Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols. That's all I can say about that.
Hey, he got 600 home runs, man.
Yeah, congratulations. He got like 429 with the St. Louis Cardinals. The rest of the 600 with the Angels. Again, congratulations. It sucks that it wasn't with all the Cardinals, but what can you do, right? You can only play first base for so long, and then a guy wanting, almost
the kind of money he got.
Yeah, $200 million. So. And
I got a little bit of fun fact for you today about Scooter Gennett's performance.
Okay.
It's Cardinal related, not just because he played against the Cardinals.
Okay.
Gennett became just the second player in history with a grand slam as a part of a 4-homer game, joining Mark Whiten, who entered the history book as a member of the Cardinals against the Reds in 1993.
That is a fun fact right there. You can't beat that fun fact.
No, and that comes from Mark Shelton at MLB.com.
Nice.
Got to cite the sources, people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, I always cite my sources. I use Fangraphs. You use Baseball Reference. So
I use Baseball Reference, Fangraphs, whatever seems to be cooperating at me at Showtime.
that is a pretty good. Yeah, I like that. That's a pretty good. God, I can't think. It's too late for me here. I've had too many today. No,
we
I'm
can just
kidding.
edit this last part of this out.
No, I like keeping stuff in, even the blooper parts. I like keeping it in. But no, that's actually funny. That's I like that. So
Whatever's working at me when I pull up Skype, that's what I go with.
Exactly. Which of course we need to start GoFundMe pages for new laptops and stuff.
Yes. So if any of you just want to throw money at us, we won't dance for it, but we will talk about it.
I mean, I'm already have to play my baritone, so why the hell not? Oh man.
So, you can find Andrew and I both on Twitter, and we can find our website too. It's mlbeers.wordpress.com. We have the Gmail account, majorleaguebeers.com. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all MLBeers podcast. And then you can find me over at on my personal Twitter at Philco816. Andrew, where can they find you?
I am the real AWS13, and lately, if you've been following or wanting to start following me, it's been a lot of College World Series chatter. I mean, nobody really replies to it, but I mean, there was a part where I got really mad at the Bears for having dopey mistakes where they threw wild pitches. Even though they still won the game, it was a nail biter. So I mean, we always have interesting tweets. I mostly tweet sports. Phil just tweets life, whatever is thrown at him at the moment.
If you like to laugh, I do.
If you like to laugh.
I don't tweet as much as I used to, but I got some good jokes on there. If you want to laugh, interact with me, just let me know, and we're more than glad to interact with anybody that listens.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions for us, just shoot us an email, shoot us a direct message, or if you like us on Facebook and follow us on Facebook, write a post on there. We'll answer it.
Yeah, exactly. And even though I say I have most of my tweets right now just going college baseball, hell, you can ask me anything and we can start a conversation. I don't mind what we're talking about. I like to learn what's going on in other things in other parts of the world and what's going on in your lives. So anyways, I think we went through everything, our usual communication channels. So from here to all of us here on the MLBeers podcast, you guys have a good night and a good week. This would be podcast number 14 if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, we didn't lead off of that. We didn't say episode 14. It's episode 14, folks.
Episode 14. We're almost hitting another milestone with 15, and of course it had to be about the damn Central Division. So that's going to be an interesting conversation for next week's, folks.
Especially for both of us.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So from all of us here, the only two of us here with the MLBeers podcast, our motto, our creed, our saying, win or lose, there is always booze.